Welcome to rSlash Prorevenge, where OP pisses in someone's Cheerios, so to speak. Our next Reddit post is from Deleted. The four of us were nerdy freshmen occupying various positions on the awkwardness spectrum. We had gym one class after lunch, so one of my friends, Tony, would buy a sports drink at lunch and place it in his locker downstairs so he'd have it during gym. It was something that happened every day, and every day, the jocks and bullies would usually say, "Hey, Tony, let me have a swig of that Powerade." Meekly, he'd give in, while they would chug it down and leave him only backwash. One day he had enough, and my meek friend was ranting at the lunch table about how he was tired of being taken advantage of. I was half-heartedly listening with my nose in a book, munching on some chicken strips, when I absent-mindedly said, "Tony, what you ought to do is buy yourself a yellow Powerade, drink half of it, piss in the rest, and put it in your locker." "But I'd get in trouble." "No, you wouldn't. It's your money, your locker, your Powerade, and you didn't give it to them to drink. They took it against your wishes. You're free and clear." At this point, the bullies weren't asking permission. They would just snatch it and chug. Well, I made the suggestion knowing there was no possible way he would go for that kind of risky plan. He was a good boy, never got into trouble, never colored outside the lines, so imagine our shock when he said, "Okay." All of us exchanged looks and barely restrained laughter at the craziness of the plan. But he did it and loaded his locker with a bottle of overly warm electrolytes. The next class, me and my friend Aaron could barely restrain ourselves from laughter, and we managed to make it without any incidents. As we made it into the gym locker room, Tony had a change of heart, which made the bottle of golden goodness even more tantalizing to the particular jock that was going for it. The jock made his intention known to Tony, and Tony begged and pleaded with him not to do it, which further provoked the jock into doing it anyway. The jock grabbed the bottle, chugged it, and then ran down the hallway into the varsity locker room, and we could hear an exclamation and retching. And the jock runs back, pale, shouting that Tony had pissed in the Powerade. For a group of young, awkward nerds, this made our year. Our next Reddit post is from Butter and Soyce. For some reason, God knows why, I thought I'd trust a very small and local credit union with some of my money. Recently, when my card didn't work at the ATM, I asked for help inside the branch, and a clerk gave me a code to use that would deduct cash directly from my account. This is a feature the bank has. I wasn't having special treatment. Fast forward a few days. It seems the bank system flagged my account for review because of some accounting error being late to deduct my balance. I didn't go on overdraft or anything. It was just a minor mistake from their side. And still, for over a month, all my funds were locked, and whenever I'd call my bank support, I was given snarky responses, sometimes even hinting that they didn't like my foreign-sounding name. When I spoke to my family back home to vent about the situation, a younger cousin came up with an idea. Use some Russian service that pays people a few Russian rubles, as in a couple of cents, each time to post whatever you ask them on social media. This service worked like magic. The website even had the option to choose between American-looking profiles and other locales. After the most well-spent $3 of my life, and some AI prompts later, the credit union social media was flooded with hundreds of complaints. I'm sure this got to the right ears because on the same day, the bank's call center manager personally called me to say they understand my frustration, and even if I don't want my account anymore, the bank is ready to initialize a transfer of my full balance, plus $50 compensation to any other bank of my choosing. Problem solved. They probably also realized there was no way to link this activity to me, and hence hinted at ending things on a positive note. Too bad I can't tell the Russian bots to remove their posts. That'll be someone else's problem now. Okay guys, this is a good story, so I want to read it and publish it, but I'm trusting you not to use this knowledge for evil. With great power comes great responsibility and all that. Yeah, the comments. That's disgusting. Where could somebody find these cheap Russian bots if they so needed them? I want to know so I can stay as far away from that place as possible. Our next Reddit post is from Lime Cherry. I work with a client services center and do project planning and oversight. I have privileges and security clearances that even low-level management doesn't have. However, I have no authority to delegate tasks or make requests. This is important because a low-level manager can order me to pull client-restricted data they normally don't have access to. While these low-level managers have to go through their superiors to make this request, technically speaking, once the request is granted, they can continue to request the restricted access report. It's a loophole that one of the low-level managers took full advantage of. Introducing Tammy. She's one of 3 leads for our call center department. Tammy is very much your typical, sneaky, backstabbing B-word who has a chip on her shoulder for anyone standing in her way or getting what she wants. She made a series of requests to ask for 2 separate reports. Each of these reports would include half of a client's confidential data. By itself, these reports were intended to spot inconsistency errors that might fall through the cracks. For example, one would be show all orders placed between such and such time, and the other would be show all orders accepted between such and such time. Tammy was then combining the reports to get access to data that she shouldn't have access to. Tammy used this information to access client order pages and change data without the client's knowledge. This is a huge no-no. As these things go, Tammy got discovered going into client orders as if she had their permission. Rather than fess up to doing anything wrong, she threw me under the bus. OP gave me this information and does so every day. See? Tammy and I were temporarily suspended without pay until the investigation was over. Turns out, no wrongdoing was discovered on Tammy's part, nor my part, and the loophole was stopped. Because of the way the investigation was handled, it went on my permanent record, and my low-level government security clearance that I had earned was given a red flag. It was the equivalent to a major slap on the wrist. Still, for her to throw me under the bus like that, I took it personally, as I knew exactly what she was doing. She had me as a scapegoat if she ever got caught. Nearly a year goes by, and I was given a task for some forensic research on a closed-off, highly controlled database. Most department leads were involved, including Tammy, whom I had little contact with after the above incident. It took several painstaking weeks for me to sift through several hundred thousands of records. I found some interesting discrepancies, most of which seemed to be taken and handled by employees from a certain department led by a certain B-word. This wasn't even what I was tasked to find. I just happened to come across it by accident. I reported it to my supervisors, and I was given the go-ahead to investigate further. Turns out, Tammy and several other leads in her department had been cooking the books to make themselves look really good. Tammy's department was the top department for months on end because of this, and they even got bonuses and recognition. After presenting my findings, our compliance department concluded that several managers were fudging the dates to make their departments look better than they actually were. The result? One termination of a backstabbing B-word named Tammy. One demotion of a lead who knew of the deception but didn't say anything. The third lead had already left the company earlier in the year. I'm told that Tammy is also being sued for the bonuses and rewards that she earned under false pretenses. The bonuses were over $5,000, which could be grounds for grand theft. Our next Reddit post is from Morgoth the Great. Some years ago, I used to work for a major tech company. I had to move around floors a lot because I was in charge of the tech side of keeping the business running smoothly for those that had to communicate with customers, clients, etc. There was this one lady who was a bit of a problem and had a habit of being involved in a lot of terminations due to supposed harassment claims. I had to deal with her a few times a week, somewhat regularly. Now, I have some trust issues and generally view a workplace as a minefield, and I tend to have a "my colleagues are the enemy" mentality. I'm paranoid and anxious, so sue me. Because of that, I record every conversation I have, and I have a recording going at all times via a recorder pin that I keep in my shirt pockets. So I was doing some work after completely replacing the computers on her floor, and I had to walk behind her and several other people who were at their desks working. One of the keyboards I was carrying hit the back of her chair while I was walking and talking into my headset to a colleague. She turned around abruptly and glared at me, but said nothing. I finished my work for the day and went home. The next day I get in, and I'm met by security and taken up to the HR floor. She made a claim against me, saying I made a sexual comment and I grabbed her butt, so I was being terminated. After everything is said and I'm handed the paperwork, I pull out my laptop and quickly pull up the camera feed, which has no sound. They say, well, there's no audio to cover you, so... I say, well, actually, I record everything I say or do while working here. I then slowly pull up the recording for that day and have them listen to all of it. The lawyer in the room had the saltiest look I've ever seen. Well, they lost their grounds to terminate me, and I immediately filed an HR complaint and threatened to get legal involved. She was terminated a few days later. Around a week after that, they ended up going after her for embezzlement because they do a basic full investigation into somebody who's been terminated, and they found that she had been stealing company money through an expenses card. It was apparently a lot because she ended up doing time. It was a great experience, and it justifies viewing your coworkers as enemies and recording them. Also, never trust HR. That was r/Prorevenge, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.